The peacock bass, a fish that's commonly found around the world. North America, Central America, South America, and even Asia. This is not by default. These fish do not belong in many of these areas. The peacock bass is actually from the Amazon. It's from areas inside of Central America and South America. Also commonly found in these areas like Florida, other warm climates, and places like Asia, because of fish keepers letting their fish out of their tanks and into main waterways. Now, when you hear the name bass, first thing that comes to your mind is the actual North American bass, the largemouth bass, or maybe even a smallmouth bass. This bass is actually not related to those fish whatsoever. This peacock bass is actually a cichlid. It's more closely related to my Oscar or my Jack Dempsey, which is also inside of this tank, or even my pike cichlid. They get their name bass because of the shapes of their bodies. Now, they have a nice wide framed body that has a very small tail that widens to a nice big fan. Also, probably the signature of the peacock bass is its mouth, which is why it's a problem that it's in some of these areas. This peacock bass being inside of areas like Florida and also in Asia poses a problem for many of the native fish that are also in the area. Florida, for example, actually introduced this peacock bass into its ecosystem in the late 80s. The reason being is because there were so many fishermen down there that were catching and killing the largemouth bass population that they actually had to introduce this species. And that changed the ecosystem in Florida forever, because this is a fish that will probably be there forever because it eats so much. It readily populates the area. It's easy to spawn in those areas, just like how any of the other invasive fish are in those areas. Enough of peacock bass in the wild and where they are all over the world. Let's talk about them inside of fish tanks. Now, most peacock bass, when you see them in a store, will be very small. I've seen them plenty of times where they're anywhere between 2 inches and very cute, and maybe 6 to 7 inches, and they look a little beefier. Now, they are a super cool looking fish. If you are into predatory fish, you definitely want to keep this guy because they're an incredible fish when it comes to their personality. When I first got him, he was just about this big, and he's roughly about 10 inches now. Speaking of 10 inches, these guys can become behemoths. So the reason why it's a little bit off-taking is because many people see this fish inside of a fish store that are 2, 3, 4 inches big, and they say, wow, it's a really great looking fish. I'm gonna buy him. But you didn't do that research on this fish. This fish needs a tank size of way north of, and this is a topic that's regularly argued about on forums all over the place. Many people say that this fish only needs 180 gallons when it gets to be its max size. Some people say it needs to be at a minimum of 300 gallons, 500 gallons, and the number goes up from there. I can't speak to it personally, but if I wanted to make sure he was in the proper home, I would put him in a 300-gallon fish tank so he could grow out in there, or something bigger than that. Speaking of their max size fish tank, these fish become huge. These fish can become anywhere between 24 all the way up to about 36-ish inches, all depending upon the type of peacock bass that you have. There's about 5 peacock bass species that are out. There are other species that have really been identified. This specifically is I'm going to butcher this here, the Cichla ocellaris, something like that. Also known as the butterfly peacock bass. Now, these fish are a cichlid. Now, when he was younger, he wasn't necessarily that aggressive or territorial. But now that he's gotten a little bit bigger, he's now displaying a little bit more of cichlid-like behavior. Now, they have incredibly large mouths, but they don't necessarily have a lot of big teeth or things like that. So are they dangerous to other cichlids, or could they fight with other cichlids? Yes. But are they exactly a dovi? Not exactly. This fish does fight territorially with my Jack Dempsey here and there, or around feeding time, because they're extremely aggressive eaters. In regards to tank mates, don't put anything that could fit in this fish's mouth, because it's not going to end well for the other fish. Also, don't put anything that's hyper aggressive in with this fish. They can put up a little bit of a fight, but if you put something super aggressive with it, it's not going to do that well. Overall, the peacock bass is a super fun fish. If you can keep it for its entire life, I would highly suggest getting it. If you did like this video, be sure to subscribe, ding that notification bell, watch some of the other content here on my channel. And also, don't forget to fish on.